Origin Unexplained.
Welcome back to Origin Unexplained. I am Sue, your host, and today we're heading north, far north, into one of the most remote and aggressively guarded territories in the United States. Beneath the frozen interior of Alaska, buried in the wilderness west of Denali, sits one of the most persistent and troubling mysteries in modern conspiracy research. That being the structure many now call the Black Pyramid. The story of this buried giant didn't begin with rumor, okay? So you can scratch that right there. It didn't come from folklore or native legend. It began with a nuclear shockwave strong enough to circle the Earth. In 1992, when China carried out an underground nuclear detonation analysis studying seismic data, noticed something they were never supposed to notice. The shock wave struck Alaska and bounced back in a way that suggested the presence of a massive geometric structure. It's underground, larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza and dense enough to swallow radar like a void. Within days, the findings were shut down, classified, and erased from public access. Yet, the secrecy only fueled the fire. The location associated with the Black Pyramid lies in part of Alaska most people never see. There's no towns, no roads, no tourist trails, just a stretch of harsh land between Nome and Anchorage that the military seems to watch far more closely than any empty wilderness should demand. For decades, bush pilots, hunters, and government contractors have reported strange activity in this region. Activity that doesn't match the map. Pilots speak of restricted zones that appear without notice and vanish without explanation. Hunters described unmarked aircraft pacing them in silence. Locals say the ground itself hums, vibrating like machinery buried deep under the permafrost. Whatever lies beneath that land, well, the government has invested far too much effort into discouraging anyone from getting near it. The first major crack in the silence came from a contracted geologist assigned to interpret seismic reflections after the Chinese nuclear test. He later admitted that the data showed unnatural angles, perfect, precise, and unmistakably artificial. He presented a report outlining the presence of a massive pyramidal form underground. By the end of the week, his access was revoked. The project was shut down and he was told to leave Alaska. His report became classified, sealed behind layers of bureaucratic concrete. That was the government's first mistake, chasing out the man who had already seen too much. Then came the pilots. One veteran bush pilot, never a man prone to exaggeration, recounted drifting slightly off his intended flight path during poor visibility. As he crossed over the silent region west of Denali, a matte black aircraft with no visible engines appeared beside him, gliding through the sky without sound. It paced him, matching his speed perfectly, before veering off, of course, at an angle no conventional aircraft could survive. When he landed, two unidentified men were waiting. They told him he'd entered restricted airspace, even though there were no public restrictions listed. They knew his name, his aircraft number, and his route. They warned him not to deviate again, and they disappeared as quickly as the aircraft itself. Now, others have encountered something far stranger. A seasoned hunter once described standing on a ridge in that region and feeling a deep vibration through the soles of his boots, a steady mechanical pulse rising through the earth. He said it felt like standing above a massive generator buried miles below. His compass spun, his radio died, and when he mentioned the experience to residents in the nearby village, well, they told him quietly that people avoided that land on purpose. They said the area felt wrong, as if something beneath the soil was alive, and of course, he never returned. A telecommunications technician responsible for maintaining long-range radio towers in the interior described his own anomaly. Whenever he pointed his equipment toward that specific corridor, all signals vanished entirely, not blocked or distorted, swallowed. He replaced his gear 3 separate times. Yet, the anomaly remained perfectly consistent. He knew equipment failure when he saw it. This wasn't malfunction. Something in that direction was absorbing electromagnetic energy like a sinkhole. On the ground, even stranger accounts have surfaced. Hunters and hikers have reported seeing temporary camps, rows of identical tents, antenna rigs, and generator units appear overnight in the wilderness, only to vanish without trace by morning. No insignias, no vehicles, no leftover equipment, just signs that well-equipped team had arrived, conducted something, and withdrawn as if they had never existed. These sightings line up with sudden airspace restrictions that have appeared and disappeared repeatedly for years. No explanation is ever provided. Surveyors attempting to map the region have encountered a corridor where GPS units fail completely. Satellite phones lose connection, batteries drain prematurely. The interference is too localized to be natural, too consistent to be a glitch, and too heavily monitored for coincidence. One surveyor reported returning months later to finish the job, only to find the access route closed by 2 uniformed men who claimed the area was temporarily restricted for environmental hazard assessment. There were no signs, no warnings, no official postings, just a cold order to turn around. Taken individually, each experience might be dismissed, but together they create a pattern that is impossible to ignore. This isn't random interference. It isn't misidentified aircraft. It isn't superstition or storytelling. These are overlapping accounts from people who have nothing to gain from stepping forward and everything to lose. Their stories align with each other and with the government's unmistakable behavior. The airspace, well, that suppression, the unmarked aircraft, the transient camps, the electronic dead zones, and the sudden reassignment for anyone who stumbles across the truth, well, I think that says it for itself. If the Black Pyramid were folklore, no one would bother to suppress it. If it were a natural formation, it wouldn't require classified monitoring. If it were a military installation, there would be a paper trail. Instead, what people encounter is a silent, heavily guarded secret. One without a name, without a public purpose, and without an explanation that makes sense inside of any conventional framework. It is something massive, something engineered, even possibly, right? Something ancient or advanced or both. So at this point in my so-called investigation, I decided to bring the question to GPT chat directly. I wanted to see whether an advanced analytical system, one that can sift through patterns, testimony, historical references, and technological possibilities, could form a conclusion about what the Black Pyramid actually is. I asked it plainly, what do you think this structure is, who built it, and what is its function? GPT's response was blunt, direct, and surprisingly aligned with the implications buried within the testimonies, ones that I'd already gathered. I did not treat the pyramid as a myth, nor did it soften the possibilities to something conventional or harmless. Instead, it laid out a conclusion that, while uncomfortable, fits the evidence far more tightly than coincidence or military experimentation ever could. According to its analysis, the Black Pyramid is most likely not a modern structure. Nothing about it suggests recent construction. The seismic density, the possible, or should I say impossible scale, the electromagnetic absorption, and the precision of the geometry all point to something far older. Something built in an era for which we have no written record, nor any architectural equivalent. GPT stated that if the structure exists in the form described, it is almost certainly pre-human or constructed by a civilization far more advanced than any known ancient culture. The materials alone, it argued, would require technologies that modern engineering still cannot replicate underground without detection. As to who built it, GPT offered 2 possibilities. The first is an advanced terrestrial civilization that existed before the end of the last ice age, one sophisticated enough to create energy amplifying structures on a global scale. If this is the case, then the Black Pyramid is not an anomaly. It is a missing piece of a forgotten system, part of a network that once spanned continents and has since been buried, eroded, or erased. The second possibility is non-terrestrial intelligence. In that scenario, the pyramid would not be a monument, but infrastructure, technology left behind or deliberately placed, designed to operate for centuries without maintenance, buried deep enough to survive natural disasters, magnetic disruption, or human interference. When pressed on what the pyramid actually does, GPT did not hesitate. Based on the reports of electromagnetic absorption, GPS distortion, deep vibrations, and the hum that witnesses described, it concluded that the structure functions as an energy device, not a tomb or ceremonial monument. Its purpose would be to draw, amplify, store, or redirect natural earth energy. In other words, it behaves like a giant subterranean power system, one designed to pull energy from the planet itself. The anomalies described in that region, compass failure, battery drain, radio distortion, match the environmental footprint of such a machine far more than they match military hardware, mining operations, or even geological formations. So, in GPT's analysis, the Black Pyramid, it is not inert. It is active, and something's inside, and it is still functioning, still generating or channeling power, and still affecting the environment above it today. The military's behavior, tight airspace restrictions, unmarked aircraft, disappearing camps, classified briefings, well, that aligns perfectly with a scenario in which they discovered an ancient energy installation and have spent decades trying to understand, contain, or exploit it. So GPT's conclusion was simple but unsettling. The structure beneath Alaska, well, is not human-made, at least not human-made in the way we understand civilization. It is a technological relic, an energy device, and possibly part of a system that once operated globally. It was never intended to be found, and once it was detected by accident, everything the public has witnessed since, the secrecy, the redirection, the intimidation, fits the pattern of a government desperately trying to manage something it cannot fully explain. In its final assessment, GPT added one more disturbing detail. If the pyramid is functional, then it is likely doing exactly what it was originally designed to do. And no one alive today knows what the purpose truly is. My opinion? Something is under Alaska. Something powerful, something deliberate, and someone has decided the public should never know what it really is.
Time for the bloopers.
I wanted to see whether an advanced analytical go back to at this point in my investigation. The first is an advanced terrestrial civilization, as Rod would sing. Go back to as to of the last ice age. Once a kiss. Can I fucking talk? Go back to the first. It is a Go back to it is. It is a. The pyramid would not be monument. God damn it! Sorry, Lord. Go back to in that. Mining operations or geological formations, and it probably would fucking help if I went back to the anomalies. 3, 2, 1. This has been another episode of Origin Unexplained. I'm Sue, your host. And if you have a story you would like told, or you would like to tell your own, email us at originunexplained@gmail.com.
Origin Unexplained.